Good afternoon and welcome to the studio NGSC Unlocked. My name is Lama Al-Hamwi. I'm a journalist and the host of the Discussions podcast, and I'll be your host on this live video podcast. It is the first live look at what's happening on the ground at the new Global Sport Conference in Riyadh. Leadership defines not only how the games are played, but how futures are built in football, esports, and beyond. Today we're joined by Thiago Alcântara, Peter Moore, and Alban.
That's
Close,
perfect.
my French. I need
That's
to take
perfect.
French. To explore how legacy is forged on the pitch, in the boardroom, and across the new digital frontiers. Now, if you'll allow me, I'll introduce our guest. We have Thiago Alcântara. He's a professional footballer, world-class midfielder with careers at FC Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Liverpool FC. He's the winner of multiple domestic and international titles, including the UEFA Champions League. He's renowned for his vision, creativity, and leadership on the pitch. We also have Peter Moore. He's the owner of Santa Barbara Sky FC, former CEO of Liverpool FC, veteran sports and gaming executive, with leadership roles at Liverpool FC, EA Sports, Xbox, and Sega. Now he's the owner of Santa Barbara Sky FC, and he brings a unique perspective at the intersection of football, interactive entertainment, and entrepreneurship. Thirdly, we have Alban Dechelotte. I need to take French. Alban Dechelotte.
Yeah, that's great.
You're being nice. I know I'm butchering. You're being so kind. He's the owner and CEO of G2 Esports. He leads one of Europe's leading esports organizations. His background spans Riot Games, Coca-Cola's global gaming initiatives, and Havas Sports and Entertainment. He focuses on the convergence with traditional sport and fan base expansion and pioneering talent development. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast.
Thank you.
I know the introduction was a bit lengthy, but thank you for your patience.
I feel overwhelmed sometimes with the introduction, right?
Really?
Why? Why that much?
Imposter. I don't think you have imposter syndrome. No, I think you guys have achieved your position. That look.
Well, we can talk about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
progress.
I like
Yeah.
that. I've spoken with, this is off topic, but I've spoken to CEOs and executives around the world, and it seems to be a common factor. I mean,
Anybody that tells you they never had imposter syndrome in any career that's moved around is a fibber.
I
Right?
like
Yeah,
that.
they're a liar.
Is a fibber.
A fibber. Yeah. No, it's something that it makes you a better executive because it makes you humble, it makes you learn. It also doesn't make you feel like you know everything from the get-go. I moved from Reebok, I was a shoe dog, to Sega. I was 44 years of age, changed careers, knew nothing about video games. And for that first 3 months, imposter syndrome was rampant in my head. Every night waking up, didn't know what I was talking about half of the time, but yeah. So every executive, it's good for you because it makes you
Humble.
dive in and learn and get up to speed as fast as you possibly can.
It was incredible. I like
And
that.
I think, especially in sports, but also in business, there's competition. Like every day, they can invent something very spectacular that would make you like the loser for the next 6 months, So it's important for us to wake up and say, okay, what's happening, where we can innovate, where we can do new things. What is the 1% is usually the only question I ask to all my staff. So, okay, what is the 1%? And then what it means is like, okay, what is the 1% thing we've never done that we need to invent now?
That's
I
true.
like that. That's interesting. This is completely related to our topic. It's not one of the questions, but our topic is about leadership, so it completely links in. Before we dive right into the topics, we are at the NGSC conference, and overlooking us, you see the media center, the media hub right here. So I want to ask you, all three of you, what has been your experience so far at the conference? I'll start with you, Thiago.
Well, I don't know. In your case, in my case, it's my first time, not just in Saudi, but also here in an esports event.
Really?
So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to get to know growth entertainment thing, because we came from contact sports and suddenly we are in a place that you have your area, your zone that you have to perform in the same way. So yeah, it's great to see the amount of fans, the amount of people involved in it.
That's wonderful. And what did you think of the conference so far, Keith?
I've been in the industry since 1998, and I grew up with Sega when online gaming, the Dreamcast, which I launched, was the first online console, but it was dial-up. So it was you literally at 56K. And competitive gaming then was you versus your friend on the couch. That was as much as you could do because online had not taken off. You come here, you fast forward to what I witnessed yesterday with the ministers and the Crown Prince and talking. And look, they're millennials now, and I think that's the difference. They grew up with gaming. I was stunned to hear the stat that 63% of Saudi citizens are 30 or younger. They're digital natives. They've grown up with a controller in their hand. And when a country like this, with the resources that this country has, gets behind esports and gets behind it in the way that I saw last night over at the arena, it's stunning to me. So I've lived through the growth of gaming. I've lived through the abuse we used to get in video gaming. I've testified in front of the Senate when congressmen and senators were attacking video games as a waste of time, as the blame for all society's ills, blaming us for school shootings and things like that. And so we fought against that. Now we're the biggest entertainment medium in the world. Forget movies, forget music, forget television. Nothing is bigger than interactive entertainment. And the entire global generation that's growing up with it. When you get a country like Saudi, and the people I saw on stage yesterday who've got their fingers on the purse strings and are willing to invest in that, the world is your oyster here in Saudi. It was amazing to me.
That's brilliant. I like
Yeah.
that. Alban, what did you think of the conference so far?
Yeah, it's like another step. I would say I've been lucky and honored to meet His Royal Highness Prince Faisal, I think 4 years ago when they announced the ESL acquisition. And he shared very clearly the path, like the vision for 2030, the different element of their strategy. And since then, I've been visiting often the kingdom that become one of the capitals of esports and gaming. First with Gamers 8, last year with first edition of the Esports World Cup. So attending every of these conferences and events. And of course, it's ambitious. Of course, it's resourceful. But what is the most impressive thing for me is that they are delivering every single step. Like the announcement from yesterday of the National Cup is for me a dream. Like I dream for my players to work hard every day to become the best version of themselves and compete at their highest level, to be recognized by the mainstream press. And this step, to be able to represent their country and compete as a national team, is a step that we know will help that. So I'm very impressed, and more than the plan, more than the ambition, the resource, is the capacity to deliver. That is very impressive.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I don't want to get too deep very quickly, but the second theme of our topic is leadership and hand in hand with legacy. So I do want to ask the three of you, what does the word legacy mean to you? And when you're no longer with us in the future, it's very, very far, far away in the future, not to get too deep, what legacy would you like to leave behind here? Thiago, start with you.
Future is the present, is what you do in this time, this moment. And to continue a bit the conversation we had before, I think leadership is all the time on the construction. You keep doing things is your core values because you are in that mood of everything must be in harmony, everything must be on place, and it's a daily basis work. I think you have to have this work ethic. You have to have this kind of feedback with teammates, with yourself as well, to get out the best of you. I think that's the mainly thing what you can do in the present to get a better future as well.
Mm-hmm. And then I want to ask you, Alban, what does legacy mean to you, and what do you want to leave behind?
I think if I think about my leadership style, a lot of this has been built by my rugby career and learning from the rugby sports. I'm very inspired by the All Blacks philosophy and the values. We discussed it earlier. And I think a lot of the things that I transmit and ask from my staff, my team managers, my coach, is based on that. So fighting complacency at all costs and no decades, as we know is one of the big values of the All Blacks, transmit to their teams. So we try to find this balance of like high expectation, but also not only on the result, but also on the behaviors.
Mm-hmm. And Peter, I want to ask you, what does legacy mean to you?
When my final whistle goes.
No, not that deep. Because as I was saying it, I was like, oh, whoa, that was intense. But what legacy would you like to leave?
I think back on my days at Liverpool. And look, I'm born in Liverpool. I grew up in Liverpool. I went to my first game at Anfield in 1959. I was 4 years of age. My dad took me. We played Leyton Orient and we beat them 4-3. And I'm 4 and I can still remember and smell that. And so to have that circle of life, to come back 60-something years later to be the CEO of the club, one of the more amazing clubs in the world, that means so much to so many people, not just in Liverpool, but anywhere in the world. I go back now to Liverpool, and when I was there, I was very lucky. Jurgen Klopp was the manager. We were champions of everything and everywhere. We were English League champions. It was a COVID season, so it was very difficult. When I go back now, people will stop me in the street, and they'll shake my hand. They don't say thank you for winning trophies or for winning games. They will say thank you for making me feel closer to my club, because I engage with fans. And much to the chagrin of my ownership, by the way, who didn't believe in fan engagement. But I did. I was living in Liverpool. I'm walking the streets of Liverpool. I'm stopped every 10 yards to talk about the club. Everybody has input in Liverpool. That's the way we are. But what I cared about most were the fans. I cared about leadership. For me was actually, when I think back on my days, it was the 4 C's when I think back. Football was changing when I joined Liverpool. I was a video game guy. I had to prove myself. The role of the sporting director was starting to grow. And the CEO in Liverpool, my predecessor, Ian Ayre, was a very different CEO. He was involved in transfers, involved in bringing players in. That's not what my job was. It was the business of football. Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards, the sporting director, they got on with football, and I got on with the 800 people who work for Liverpool who don't kick a football. And for me, that was engaging our fans both locally and globally. I coined a phrase that we're a football club with a local heart powered by a global pulse. And wherever I would be in the world, I would engage with our fans. I would do presentations in the evening, because football without fans is nothing, absolutely nothing. And so from that element of it, and again, my ownership disagreed with me a little bit here, but I believed it was about the fans first, because if you didn't bring the fans along, it's their club. I always told my owners, I said, look, don't call yourself owners, you're stewards. You don't own this club. Yes, you do economically and financially, but that guy who stood on the Kop for 45 years, he owns this club. His dad owns this club. His granddad owns this club. You have the economic rights to do business as Liverpool Football Club, but don't think you own him. And so I'm always happy when I go back. I'll be back in a few weeks, and I know somebody's going to stop me, going to shake my hand and say, thank you for making me feel close to the club. That's what, for me, personally, leadership meant.
It's beautiful. I mean, that alone needs to be its own soundbite. I think it was really inspiring. So on the topic of innovation and risk-taking and the fan base as well, so what role does creativity and bold decisions play in shaping clubs and careers? And like you said, for the 800 people that are at Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we learned, I didn't learn, I knew it, is creating content 24 hours, 7 days a week. Liverpool fans are in every corner of the earth. 99% of Liverpool fans will never see Liverpool play live. And so what you have to do to engage them in video games, we call it this inverted funnel. You open the funnel as wide as you can and you acquire. You then engage and ultimately you monetize, although I would never say that out loud to football fans. And that was what we do in video games. Free to play came along, in which games like Fortnite, we acquire, the game's free, come play. The game's engaging. It's a brilliant game, so we engage you. And then you want to play longer and deeper, so then you start spending money. And it turned the video game world a little bit upside down. And you bring in brands like Coca-Cola who want to get behind. They want their customers to be part of what video games are and vice versa. And for me, that element of it, the innovation of changing the business model, engaging our consumers and doing it in a very different way, allowed us to grow the industry. It was a risk, because instead of selling your product, you're giving it away for free with the hope that eventually downstream you get money, and that's what's happened in our industry.
Yeah. Alban, the same question. So the idea of innovation and risk-taking, when you're making creative and bold decisions within your organizations, how are you navigating that and still maintaining that audience, that loyalty?
I think the key thing for us, although we are a startup compared to Liverpool, we are 10 years old this year, so very small club. We're considered the Real Madrid of esports. I don't know.
There you go. That's all you need.
Should be called something else.
The Barcelona of esports is what you should be.
I think we want to be the G2 of sports now, but that's something else. I think for us is to understand what makes us different. So at G2, we are very focused on two things: competition and storytelling. Competition, I don't think I need to explain. Storytelling is very new, is very fresh. I think a lot of clubs try to communicate and share content. We don't believe in content, we believe in stories. So we produce something like 500 videos a year, but 85% of it is scripted. So we tell stories that we decide. We create characters, we create universe, which allow us to control the only thing we can't control, which is results. We don't know if we're going to win or lose, but we know what story we want to tell, and that's how we make us a bit different. Another factor for us is that most of the club comes from somewhere. T1 is Korean, Vitality is French, K-Cup is French, Koi is Spanish. all these clubs from esports you probably don't know, they come from somewhere. And of course they want to be global,
Sure.
but they come from somewhere. G2 has been founded by a Spanish and a German founder. So from the get-go, we were not from one country only. And I think we try to cultivate this. So now we have teams in China, in Los Angeles, in Dallas, in Paris, in Berlin, and soon to be, hopefully, Saudi. We believe in this idea of like being relevant by being local. And instead of being local from one space of the world, we are multi-local. And we believe that this is something that could create like a difference for G2 with the rest of the clubs.
Yeah.
The next step for us is, of course, to blur the lines. Why esports if we can do football?
Mm-hmm.
So we just entered football by acquiring a football team in Kings League in Germany. And of course, this is a groundbreaking moment for us, because if we can prove that what we do in competition and storytelling can apply to other things at video games, I think sky's the limit for us.
And then, Thiago, I want to ask you, in terms of fan base, well, there's a lot of risks, honestly, because how do you maintain that balance between performance as an athlete while also maintaining the loyalty of the audiences? Because in a certain sense, you do have to balance that performance, in a sense, the performance for the audience and the performance for you as an athlete.
Well, because first of all, you have this kind of relationship with the fans because it's a game. So at the end, you having this kind of conscious thing of preparing every week a game, a training, doesn't matter. But then you have this child inside of you that you are playing. So you have to have this mix between the serious, the conscious of the things you're doing, but at the same time, you have to have this energy and this flow as a kid while you're on the pitch. Because in football, you want to make a nutmeg, you want to make a tunnel, you want to make a goal, a bicycle kick. So you have to have this kind of, we discussed before, this reaction thing in the moment against a guy that want to break your leg. So you have to have this kid thing that I want to get out from here. But then fan base, the fans want to have fun. They want to have fun, but at the same time, they want to share values with you while you are performing. So Liverpool is, I think, is one of the teams that is spot on that. That you have to not just perform and win, but you have to give your heart on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So we are there. So if we receive that on the stadium, that energy that the fan gives to us, the next day, it doesn't matter how you feel, you will give a smile to them. You will treat them as a colleague, as a family member. So we experienced that in Liverpool. I had the luck at Bayern that experience as well. So those are the teams that one of the decisions that I want to join is I want to find that, this kind of engagement with fans, to get to know the culture, to get to know the club. So I think most of players were not leaving a legacy. It's just to be part of a team, part of a history of a club. That's the main thing.
It's beautiful, being part of something that's bigger than you generationally.
It's not about yourself. Life is not personal.
Yeah.
It's about others.
Yeah, a lot of players or staff that I meet in the recruitment process, which obviously I'm usually at the end of a process, I talk about the value of a jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to realize what the jersey stands for, what it took for 10 years to build this brand and this jersey, and I want them to realize it, so that when they receive it, of course they try to do their best, but also they think about the legacy. I want them to realize that one day they will leave the jersey back. They're going to give it back to the club. And I want them to be proud of this. And I challenge them to be proud of what they're going to do to build their legacy.
And then there are the huge players that came once in a while that they want to put this jersey in a better place.
Yeah.
What they found. So those are the different ones.
And for me, that's there's two kind of jobs. People winning trophies and people helping winning trophies. Both are important. So I want them to realize that they could be designers, they could be script writers, they could be social media managers. They all have a role to play for us to win trophies. And their responsibility is the same level. We have players called Caps. He's the best players Europe has ever had in League of Legends. And I ask him, I want you to ask yourself what Caps will do. What Caps will do to reach that level in League of Legends, in your job. And so trying to get them to analyze that is the same expectation.
I do want to ask, this is one of the topics that we have listed here. Obviously, maintaining legacy is so incredibly important, especially when you're dealing with generational loyalty towards a team or towards an organization. How are you balancing that heritage, that community roots, while also dealing with the commercially growing the organization or the team, such as Liverpool?
Football has changed because of the money. When I grew up, being a Liverpool fan in the 50s and 60s. Liverpool, there was no substitutes. There was maybe one substitute, and that was it. Liverpool won the league one year with 14 players that played 48 games with 14 players. And so you have this tight squad that played through the mud and the blood of the pitches in those days. I think the heritage of what I'll call multi-generational football clubs, which will soon come to esports, multi-generational esports teams, that your dad played for Team Falcons here in Saudi Arabia, and you have that. Thiago's father was a brilliant player, right? And so he's a multi-generational player that learned at the feet of one of the best players in the world. And so you have this heritage that's passed down through the generations of either players that you look at today. And I grew up watching Liverpool in the 60s and 70s. When I came back as the CEO, I walked into a room of players that were my heroes, and now they're in their 70s and 80s. And I was in awe of being able to meet them because they had put the team on their shoulders and they were earning £25 a week. You know, it's different now. And the thing that certainly somebody as old as me now that looks at players who go to different clubs for money and are moved around by their agents so that their agents can make money, and the players become commodities. And you don't learn, it's more about the name on the back than the crest on the front. And that's not what football is all about. So you want players like Thiago that understand the DNA of the fabric of the football club, what it means to the people, and what it means to wear that shirt, rather than Thiago on the back or whatever it happens to be. And those players are around. It's very rare, unfortunately, nowadays to have a singular player who grew up in the academy and goes all the way through and finishes his career in the same team. It just really doesn't happen anymore, and that's a shame. And that used to happen all the time. But the heritage of football is bigger than any player, and the club is bigger than any player. And the fans will gravitate towards players, as Thiago said, that no matter if you lost, if you gave it all out there, that's all they care about. If you lope about the pitch and you don't go into tackles and you don't do it, the fans know. And that's when you're finished with a football club. So the heritage for me of that is giving your all for this crest, and fans recognizing that and not making it about your name on the back of the shirt, but the crest on the front, right over your heart, because that's where it belongs.
That's beautiful. Alban, Thiago, do you want to add anything to that? Because we are approaching our final few seconds of the podcast.
No, for sure. It's about they can get wrong writing your name, getting wrong writing your number, but you couldn't wear another shirt from another club, so that's the wrong thing. So as you said, it's important to be giving your best for a group, giving your best for the team, giving your best for your family in this case, but it's a huge family. A club, you will see, it's a huge family thing. And as you mentioned, they know football, they know about the sport because they live their whole life in that perspective, how you have to respect the badge. So that's sport, that's life as well.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Alban, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I'm in
It's a good summary.
admiration
I feel
about
like, yeah.
where the football is in terms of transmission, tradition. I think we are trying to build this in esports. It's interesting. Nowadays, we gain fans where we have a new players or a new game. And our job is to transmit the love between that initial connection with G2 as an organization. Because we have not just football or just one player. We have to build this across 12 games. So it's very interesting, and I'm learning a lot. I see also that football is changing a lot. In my youth, I think you were a fan of your city club. And I see now much more jersey of Barcelona, Liverpool, Real Madrid in France, which is interesting. That means we are becoming a global community, and there's an opportunity behind this, but also it's a big change for the small clubs that don't benefit from this.
I grew up where there were no foreign players allowed to play in the English league, and then two players came from Argentina, of all places. Ricardo Villa and Osvaldo Ardiles played, and it was exotic to see two Argentinians play for Spurs, which is a London-based club, because previous to that, they just weren't allowed. You had a foreign limit. Liverpool could put a team on the field with no Englishmen, no Brits at all, and nobody cares as long as you give all for the liver bird on your chest, whether you're from Egypt, Senegal, Italy, Spain, Germany, it doesn't matter. If you're wearing that and you wear it with pride and you go in, that's the globalization of the sport. That's why it's the beautiful game.
Beautifully said. I think that's a good note to end on. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your valuable insights. I mean, we have 3 leading experts from different sectors, all discussing football, all discussing the game and esports. So it's a beautiful conversation, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you to our panel for those insights on Asia and MENA's esports growth. We've explored data, investment, infrastructure, and commercialization, the building blocks of the industry's future. Stay tuned for NGSC Studio for more conversations that shape the global game. Thank you.